From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Now at 6, crude realities for Benicia as the town's biggest employer plans to shut down.
The transition is going to be hard for everyone. The pain will be shared throughout the state.
Why neighbors are split on the city's oil refinery.
Plus, it's the opening weekend for the Smart Rail to Windsor.
I'm just excited to ride it. It's my first time, so we'll see how it goes.
The impact on the North Bay commute.
And later, one more trip for the AIDS life cycle ride.
This is what I decide to do at 70. You know, other people decide to take long vacations.
Why the ride is shutting down after 30 years. We're live from the CBS studios in San Francisco. I'm Brian Hackman.
And I'm Andrea Nakano. 2 separate diversions at SFO this weekend, leaving passengers frustrated and tonight stranded. A flight on its way to Sydney is currently in Honolulu, where it landed to address a maintenance issue. The remainder of the flight to Australia was canceled. Just a day earlier, a flight to Beijing was turned around to address another maintenance issue. Passengers were forced to get off the plane and swap to a new aircraft before taking off to China.
All of this comes after 2 flights at SFO nearly collided in May, coming within just a few hundred feet of each other after one plane took a wrong turn during takeoff. Both planes were diverted safely, but the FAA is investigating. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is pushing a plan to build a new air traffic control system as incidents across the country increase. Meantime, Benicia is preparing for a future without its biggest employer, the Valero refining company.
And while everyone admits a refinery closure would have a tremendous economic impact on Benicia, neighbors are split on the looming reality of it being gone. Dahlin reports.
For a lot of the refinery communities like Benicia, Richmond, and Martinez, there's this love-hate relationship with their local refinery. They love the economic benefits, but hate the pollution problems. As Valero plans to shut down next April, Benicia officials are working to soften the economic blow. Not only is it the city's biggest employer, the Valero refinery also pays the most in taxes to the city of Benicia.
Valero represents in direct contributions to our economy are between $10 and $12 million a year.
Benicia Mayor Steve Young says that's about 20% of the city's annual budget, roughly $60 million. If Valero leaves next year, that $10 to $12 million tax hit could grow as other businesses that depend on the refinery may also be forced to close.
There will be impacts to restaurants and hotels.
As the city braces for possible cuts to programs and staff, the mayor is looking for ways to replace that tax revenue.
What I'm trying to do is buy some time. If we can delay this closure for 3 years and give ourselves a chance to start talking about what comes next and what type of development would be best to try to replace what's happening here and continue to operate and give us some revenue in the meantime, that would be the best of all worlds.
Artist Marilyn Bardet spent years serving as a watchdog, making sure Valero followed environmental rules and protected the community's health.
I believe there will be pain, but I believe that out of that situation comes really strong feelings for what is our community about.
She believes the closure could benefit Benicia.
Our community will be healthier. Our children will not have as much asthma. The cancer rates may, over a generation, begin to, decrease.
Some refinery supporters point fingers at city officials and environmentalists, accusing them of pushing Valero out, along with hundreds of good-paying jobs.
It's a benefit for the area, and also there's going to be quite a bit of job loss involved.
One longtime worker told us in April he and many others were able to put their kids through college thanks to Valero.
Some people just are going to be out of a job because there's not enough places to fill the gaps.
Mayor Young says he's talking to state officials and Valero to see if there's a way to delay the closure, but he's also preparing for the worst.
We're a vibrant and resilient community, and we are going to get through this. We're not going to be declaring bankruptcy or doing anything like that.
Aside from Valero, a major refinery in LA is also planning to shut down. Oil experts say the closures would drive up gas prices. Gavin Newsom and the state's Energy Commission are working with the oil industry to see if they can find some kind of compromise.
Last year, air quality regulators slapped the largest ever penalty on Valero's Benicia refinery, $82 million for a history of toxic and chemical releases and other violations at the site. Other news, in San Jose, a grass fire started near the San Jose airport. Fire only burned about 5 acres. Crews are on high alert, though, of course, around the bay, given our short spell of hot weather. But that has come to a dramatic end, as you forecast it would.
Yeah. You know, when we woke up this morning, we could tell.
Oh, yeah.
Because all of a sudden, like seemingly like it had been gone forever, look at the marine layer that came back. So that's the view from the top of Mount Tam, where that's just such a great way to see it. But it overtook the entire bay. That's how you break heat waves. So we did that this morning. Let me show you what the difference was. If you take a look at the numbers on here for where we were in terms of how different it felt for your part of the bay today compared to yesterday, look at the Tri-Valley. Just about 20 degrees cooler today than it was yesterday for Livermore. Check out San Jose. Similar story there. San Francisco also dropped a dramatic difference, and Santa Rosa did as well. If we look at the actual highs, where were you for your highs today? Where did those land? We can get a look at the bay as a whole, and you can see what the temperatures were in general for some of the representative spots. And now that we've done this, we're pretty much staying here. So these are tomorrow's daytime highs. I'll get out of the way. You can pick out your part of the bay on there. That's where everybody's going tomorrow. And it should look and feel very similar to what you just did today, because that's going to be almost an exact repeat. I'll be back with the full forecast coming up in just a few minutes, guys. We'll talk about what comes after that. See you in a bit.
All right. Thank you, Darren. Cities across the Bay Area are celebrating the LGBTQ plus community today as Pride Month kicks off. Berkeley's police and fire departments are showing their support with a rainbow flag inside their building, while both Richmond and Santa Cruz held big parades today in honor of Pride.
Cyclists took part in the final ride with their AIDS life cycle this morning. Hundreds took off for the 7-day, 545-mile ride with the goal of raising money for AIDS medical care and prevention services. Been around for a long time. AIDS Life Cycle has held the event for over 30 years. They've raised $300 million for the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBTQ Center, but this will be its last year. Organizers say the event is just no longer financially viable. Earlier this week, Len Ramirez introduced us to a local team getting ready to hit the road one last time.
Megan Schutzer is clicked in, geared up, and focused as they pedaled out for one of their final training rides before the big event. Megan has spent months preparing, early mornings, long roads, and 2,000 miles of hard training in the saddle. It's all to be in shape for the ordeal that lies ahead, and for Megan, the road to the AIDS Life Cycle ride is personal and powerful.
I think that this ride has always been political. When it started, it was both supporting people living with the disease by raising money, but it was also making a statement so that people would pay attention to the issue, and it continues to be that to this day. We're not just raising money for these organizations, but we're passing through a lot of small towns, and the impact I think that our community has as we come down the coast it's hard to measure, and it's really important.
30 seconds in, 90 to go. Megan is co-captain of a powerhouse team for women, trans and non-binary people who call themselves We Spoke. They don't just put in the miles on the road, they put in the time in the gym, spinning, and strength training, gaining confidence and lending moral support to meet the challenge. They're active people like Dipti, who's taking it on for the first time.
This is what I decided to do at 70. You know, other people decide to take long vacations. This is what I decided to do.
And people motivated to make a difference, like Mariana, who's doing her second ride this year.
Sadly, the AIDS crisis is not over, and now more than ever, we need to bring awareness to it.
Together, they've raised over $200,000 to support life-saving HIV/AIDS services through the San Francisco AIDS Foundation and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. But this year's ride is bittersweet. It marks the final AIDS Life Cycle event after more than 2 decades of fundraising and community building.
The loss of this event, I think, My sadness and fear is that there would be loss of community, and I'm really hopeful that people continue to gather and continue to do this work together. It's so cool to see.
Over 3,000 cyclists will be making the 500-plus mile journey one last time. Megan has done it every year since 2016 and wants to get that feeling one last time, to be with her community and supporters, united by purpose, perseverance, and pride.
And I think when you are raising money for this cause, you're doing something physically challenging, you already feel so good, and then there's all that goodness to share, and it's so special and so different from anything I've seen.
They're just one part of a remarkable legacy, with every push of the pedal now heading for the finish line.
Coming up, neighbors weigh in on a new smart rail in Windsor. We'll be right back.
Clouds coming in. This weekend marks the long-awaited arrival of the Smart Commuter train to Windsor, up in the North Bay. The original purpose, at least part of it, to get people to work, but it's also a way to get people to play. John Ramus has got that story.
Windsor has been waiting for years for SMART to arrive, and now that the train is finally pulling into the station, there are high hopes of what it will mean for the small communities up and down the North Bay. It's been 8 years since the SMART train began operation, so when it finally arrived in Windsor, Maria Ledesma had to get over her skepticism.
I know, I never thought it was actually going to happen, but now that it happened, I was like, okay, let's go.
She and her sister Maricela brought their entire families out to enjoy a day riding the rails.
I'm just excited to ride it. It's my first time, so we'll see how it goes.
What are you planning to do today?
We're going to go to Larkspur and then just hang out, eat over there, and then just see what else comes up.
It's just like, it's an easier way to move without having to deal with the traffic and everything, and have someone else do the driving, and also have the kids get a chance to ride the train, which they're super excited. So
it's the first time they've ever been on a train?
It's their first time, so they're really excited over that.
The excitement is a bit ironic, considering that the previous end of the line was only 5 minutes away at the airport station in Santa Rosa. But nothing beats having a station of your own to call home.
Absolutely, because we're here in our hometown. We just drove down the street and get to ride from our own place in Windsor.
And that makes a big difference.
Huge difference. It's our hometown.
SMART was envisioned as a commuter transit line, but then the pandemic hit and work patterns changed, and the rail line has been struggling to find a niche. Now, the further north you get from San Francisco, it's viewed as a way to connect the small cities, and that means it can be good for business.
I was shocked when I got to work this morning how many cars were down here, and it's popping down here.
Marie Esposti Winter owns the Hush Up clothing boutique right next to the train station. She survived a global pandemic, 2 wildfires, and now President Trump's trade war tariffs. So while she's optimistic about SMART, she's also a realist about what its impact might be.
We have tons of cute little boutiques, restaurants. Realistically, I don't know how many Marin people are going to come up here and shop. Although I've taken the train down to Petaluma and shop down there, so the hope is that everybody down south will come up north and enjoy the train and come check out Windsor.
SMART used to end at a nondescript train yard, but now ending at Windsor gives the rail line an actual destination. The town green is a popular picnic area, and the shops, restaurants, and wine tasting rooms are giving people a reason to get on the train.
Becoming much more of a place where people are coming, especially from out of town. It will bring people down here and help boost the local economy, which is nice. Pretty vibrant, but I mean, everything helps, right? We're all based on tourism here, so that's all very helpful.
And Devin Hoops is exactly the kind of rider they're hoping for. The Santa Rosa resident has been using the train as a fun way to explore the small cities surrounding his hometown.
I haven't made it down to Novato yet, to really explore that from the train. But that's on the list. I'm getting there.
The towns have always been here, easily accessible by automobile. But somehow the experience of riding the train is causing people to venture out, and in the process, connecting them with their neighbors up and down the line.
Well, we always tend to overachieve here, don't we? When we break heat waves, they usually come crashing to a dramatic end. It's a live look outside right now. It's a bit hazy. Let me show you why it looks so hazy. We're going to go to the high view and look down at the high-resolution satellite imagery. The marine layer really came back in this morning with purpose. We woke up to, well, I guess now we got to call it June gloom. We basically all woke up to the marine layer that had taken over most of the bay. Since then, it has melted back, but it has not gone completely. It's out here. It is still lurking out here down the San Mateo County coast. That's its starting point. Let me show you what it's going to do tonight. It's going to come right back again. So we'll get that high view now, looking down on the bay, and we're going to forecast the transition from live satellite into futurecast imagery. This is the high-resolution forecast for how the marine layer just fills right back in again overnight. Beautifully conforming to the valley, so you can see where I am here in the Santa Clara Valley. You'll have plenty of it. That's Napa up there, where you can see the clouds have streamed up into Napa Valley. And that over here, this is where you've got the clouds that have come in and they've started to fill in through the Petaluma Gap. Bottom line is everybody gets it. So we wake up to gray skies tomorrow. That's going to keep our temperatures relatively cool, much like they have been. So let me just show you what the numbers will look like for tomorrow's daytime highs. We'll put on the color code for that as well. And when we take a look at the contours, the color contours, and match that with what tomorrow's daytime highs will be, these are almost identical to where you were today. This is the start of the part of the forecast that we looked at the top of the newscast. And I just wanted you to see these numbers again because these are not changing. This is the temperature side of this forecast is pretty much now locked in for like the next 7 days. We're just going to keep doing that. Let me give you the vantage point of something else that might be kind of interesting on this forecast now as we look ahead over the next few days. How'd we do this big cool down? You look up at the satellite imagery here, you really don't see anything. What came through here to break up the center of high pressure? It's there, but it's not strong enough to show up in the clouds. When we look at it on the water vapor, now you cannot miss it. Take a look at that. You've got that beautiful trough coming down the coast. That was the main driver. But then you've also got this little area of low pressure right here. The two of them are working together to totally break down that center of high pressure. And watch what happens over the next day and a half. That little area of low pressure out here sparks off some more thunderstorms in the Sierra. Interesting. And the bigger one out here really builds in the marine layer and drives it down the coast and keeps giving us these gray starts to the day. It took both of them, but they both kind of worked together and brought us down 20 degrees today from where we were yesterday. By the way, look where we're going to be. That's Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon, more isolated thunderstorms in the Sierra, more marine layer for the coast. That is like classic summer here. If we're lucky, we get a robust season where the thunderstorms develop in the Sierra, dampen up the landscape a bit, and the marine layer keeps going to keep the worst of the heat away. And that's certainly the way it looks like it's going to go for much of the first part of this week. And when you look at the 7-day forecast, there's your 81 tomorrow if you're inland, and then you're not really going to stray from that much at all, maybe a few degrees, but nothing too dramatic. You just sit right around 80 degrees for the daytime high. Let's take a look at this forecast now for the Bay. We'll put those numbers on. They do the same thing in terms of not budging much. Let's see if we can get them all on there so you can see the full 7-day forecast. They're not going to budge a whole lot from there, and it does look really nice in terms of temperatures and a break from the heat.
Welcome back. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie's budget proposal is cutting more than 1,400 positions in an effort to partly close an $800 million deficit.
And most of these positions that are vacant, but 100 city workers are expected to lose their jobs, and union worries that the cuts will hurt city services.
So joining us now to talk more about the proposal is Kim Tvadlione. Kim, I don't think I have your name precisely right. She's the executive director of the San Francisco Labor Council. And we'll just start out by saying, Kim, with only 100 jobs being cut, it doesn't seem like the cuts will have a huge impact. But what are your concerns about this exactly?
The city was already understaffed by approximately 3,000 jobs already. Mm-hmm. Currently, that's the staffing levels. The staffing levels are really short. People are doing 2 or 3 jobs as it is. So to tell a department that they're going to lose a position and they're going to have to take on more work, it's just not feasible for people working in the city. And those services just aren't going to get done.
So Kim, what are your biggest concerns as far as those city services? What are people going to notice the most if these positions are cut?
You know, there's going to be, depending on the department, there's going to be a lack of service, probably a lack of visibility, slower wait times for folks. It's unfortunate, but those are the things that people are going to experience.
Okay, I would just say that in many, folks that ordinary people talk to, we're all being burdened with doing more with less. You hear that continually with the economy right now, doing more with less, taking on the jobs of people who used to work around the places. Why should it be different for the city?
It isn't different for city workers. It's actually the same. I think city workers would actually argue that they've been understaffed for decades.
Hmm.
And I think the level of understaffing at the city is overwhelming. We have some departments where people just quit. 911 operators. The conditions are really abysmal. They've been understaffed for decades, people being mandated to do like 16-hour shifts. Walking into work and not knowing when you're going to come home is a real problem for folks.
Okay, so if let's say that you could wave the magic wand and you've got an $800 million deficit, how do you cut it?
Definitely looking at some of the reserves. I would definitely look at making sure that corporate America pays their fair share of taxes. They use our infrastructure. They use a lot of the services that the city does provide, and they don't pay their fair share.
Now, there have been a lot of changes on the federal level. Has that had any sort of impact on what is going on right now with the city?
There is a fear that it can get worse, yes.
In what way? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
The deficit could get worse in the future, depending on what happens with Medicaid cuts, depending on what happens at all levels of cuts. But the healthcare cuts are going to really, really hurt terribly. The area is losing a number of jobs from federal workers who were fired or terminated or whatever language you want to use. So the area is starting to feel those effects.
Okay, of course, this isn't a done deal. It has to go to the supervisors. Do you have any sense right now of how the supervisors are going to react to the budget proposal?
We're talking to the Board of Supervisors. I know a number of them are not happy. We spoke to some of them who felt like the layoffs weren't necessary at this particular juncture. Mm-hmm. They feel that the layoffs should happen as the last, it should be an extreme time. They feel that there's still some wiggle room with the reserves and with some possible other resources.
Okay. All right, Kim. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Kim, Executive Director of the San Francisco Labor Council. Thank you,
Kim. And coming up after the break, details on what the FBI called a targeted terror attack in Boulder, Colorado this afternoon. We're back in 2 minutes.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Evening Edition.
Chaos at an outdoor mall in Boulder, Colorado. Police say that 6 people were injured after being attacked by a man during a march for Israeli hostages.
That person is now in custody. The FBI is describing this as an act of terror. New graphic video shows the aftermath of the attack.
Stay. Cell phone video shows smoke in the middle of a crowd of people. The FBI said a suspect yelled, "Free Palestine," and used a makeshift flamethrower.
This happened at a popular mall in downtown Boulder. The area is blocked off for the investigation right now.
A walk to remember the Israeli hostages in Gaza was taking place at the time there. One witness said that she helped out 2 victims caught in the attack. Listen.
It was 2 older ladies, just like kind of rolling around a little bit. They were in their underwear because they had like stripped their pants, obviously. And yeah, I was just like, how can I help? And they had like really bad burns all up on their legs.
FBI Director Kash Patel is describing this as a terrorist attack, but Boulder police say it's too early to speculate a motive.
Police are also looking into a vehicle of interest. There's no word on the conditions, though, of those injured victims. Some Republican senators pushing back against President Trump's budget bill, saying that it adds too much debt to an already huge deficit.
CBS's Christian Benavides shares more on what one senator says needs to happen before it gets Senate approval.
Republican Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky is among those legislators not backing down from concerns about President Trump's budget bill. On Sunday, Paul said he's one of several Republican senators against the way the bill is currently written, arguing it adds too much to the deficit.
If I vote for the $5 trillion debt, who's left in Washington that cares about the debt? We will have lost. But the GOP will own the debt once they vote for this.
Trump has been adamant the bill, which he's named Big and Beautiful, should move forward quickly. Over the weekend, the president wrote on social media that if Senator Paul votes against the bill, the people of Kentucky will never forgive him.
Look, I want to vote for it. I'm for the tax cuts. I voted for the tax cuts before. I want the tax cuts to be permanent. But at the same time, I don't want to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion. So I've told him if you take the debt ceiling off the bill, in all likelihood, I can vote for what the agreement is on the rest of the bill.
Paul was also critical of Trump's tariffs, which he called a tax on his constituents. Over the weekend, the administration also continued to defend its recent decision to stop recommending COVID vaccines to healthy pregnant women and children.
That panel has been a kangaroo court where they just rubber stamp every single vaccine put in front of them.
A number of medical organizations, including the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, have expressed concern over the administration's changing guidelines, noting the dangers COVID poses to pregnant women. The FDA commissioner said on Face the Nation it's best for patients to consult with their doctors over COVID vaccines going forward.
And here is more on those guidelines. The commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration stands by his agency's decision to no longer recommend that healthy children and pregnant women should receive COVID vaccines, saying the science isn't there to back up their continued use.
We're saying it's going to be between a doctor and a patient until that committee meets or more experts weigh in or we get some clinical data. If there's zero clinical data, you're opining. I mean, it's a theory. And so we don't want to put out an absolute recommendation for kids with no clinical data.
Data does show that pregnant women can lessen the risk of serious illness by taking the COVID vaccine, but Macquarie argues that because there are no randomized controlled trials, the studies do not meet the standard.
Well, more than 25,000 residents in Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, Canada have been evacuated as dozens of active wildfires in the area endanger their safety. Smoke has lowered visibility and worsened air quality in Canada and is affecting states along the border. And despite the big cool down today, fire danger is top of mind for first responders in the Bay Area. Up in Santa Rosa, fire officials held an expo to help neighbors get ready. Max Darrow's got the story.
On the eve of the official start to fire season in Santa Rosa,
go as low as you can.
Community members came together for a refresher on how to be prepared for a moment they hope never comes. That included William Kessler, who lives in Windsor, who's had to evacuate before.
In 2019, everyone had to, the whole town had to evacuate, so.
Santa Rosa residents are all too familiar with devastating wildfires. The Tubbs fire in 2017 and the Glass fire in 2020 are permanently etched into memory for many people here.
We need to be ready.
Fire season in California has become a year-round phenomenon. But in Santa Rosa, Fire Marshal Paul Lowenthal says they do declare an official start and end to fire season as it is directly tied to local ordinances in place.
Primarily our weed abatement ordinance, which does go into effect at the start of our locally declared season. And then we have other ordinances that are tied to start and stop, like pile burning, as well as our vegetation management ordinance that's as a result of our 2017 and 2020 wildfires here locally in the city.
Lowenthal says Santa Rosa's wildland-urban interface saw a lot of grass and vegetation growth at the beginning of the year that has since dried out, creating an abundance of fuel.
And now you look at our hillsides and they're real golden brown now, and that's the concern.
He says the community and fire department together can take steps to keep fires that do break out small and manageable.
Our hope is that the work that we do to train is going to be complemented by a lot of the vegetation management practices, weed abatement, defensible space, home hardening that we're hopeful that our community takes into account and does.
Kessler didn't go home empty-handed. He left with a new go bag.
And then getting a backpack has been nice, so we have an extra bag to have ready to go.
A little bit of prep that could go a long way when disaster strikes.
Well, coming up, why are minors using beauty products with anti-aging ingredients? A CBS investigation next.
And welcome back. A California assemblyman wants to restrict the sale of anti-aging ingredients to minors. It would trigger an 18 and older age verification at the register.
Yeah, this would save me a lot of money with my 9-year-old. This comes as skincare brands are marketing viral products to tweens. CBS News California's Julie Watts investigates the Sephora kids trend with the help of her daughter's 5th grade class.
Strawberry smooth, I found it.
You're watching an undercover shopping spree.
I needed the baby face serum.
These 5th graders are on a mission.
Right here, baby face. Oh, it's actually kind of cute.
To see what happens when they try to buy products that, according to dermatologists, contain anti-aging ingredients that could harm their young skin.
I saw this on TikTok.
The skincare industry says they don't market adult skincare to kids, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the shelf.
Do you think it smells like blackberries? Probably.
Or even the fine print on the fruit-shaped and brightly colored packaging with product names like Strawberry Smooth and Baby Facial.
Guys, I just got the biggest package from them.
Now, the skincare industry blames social media for the so-called Sephora kid trend, named after one of the trendy cosmetic stores that sells the viral skincare brands.
Guess you just sent me a package.
Those brands often ship boxes of free products to young influencers and create fun skincare games, skincare-inspired slime, even cleansers that look like bubble gum.
I mean, we do not market to this audience, right?
In a recent interview with Fortune magazine, Sephora's CEO acknowledged the concern.
It is incumbent on us. It's incumbent on our over 250, 300 brands to make sure that we're talking to the right audience.
Meanwhile, we found Sephora sale promotions on Instagram featuring Sephora Barbies, Sephora stickers, and even cartoons.
Is it fair for them to say we don't market to kids?
No, it is not fair.
Drew Single studies the intersection of adolescent psychology and social media marketing.
It's putting fun things, cartoons, stickers, with the brand. That is going to draw and hold children's interest and attention. I don't know how this would be particularly effective for an adult audience.
But while Sephora may benefit, Sephora didn't create the Sephora kid trend.
Drunk Elephant sent us yet another PR package.
Thank you so much to Drunk Elephant for sending me this package.
CBS News confirmed analyzed more than a dozen top kidfluencers who partner with skincare brands and have more than 42 million followers combined.
But thanks, Glossby, so much for sending me this toner. It's so cute. Like, look at the packaging, y'all.
We found post after post that appear to target kids, advertising skincare products with ingredients intended for older skin.
I feel like I'm an adult now because Glow Recipe is my style.
Many feature so-called aesthetic or preppy packaging.
It's literally the cutest Drunk Elephant package I have ever seen. It's the itty bitty mitty kit.
With brand-inspired social trends like Drunk Elephant skincare smoothie that encourages kids to buy and mix multiple products.
Wait, let's try to make a skincare smoothie with this. Should we?
And despite FTC requirements, CBS News confirmed found that only about 6% of recent skincare posts from top kidfluencers were tagged as promotional content.
Who would you say these are marketed for?
Definitely younger kids.
Dr. Smitha Awapi is a director of pediatric dermatology for UC Davis Health. She's seen the adverse reactions to products like these firsthand.
These sort of products are meant for peeling the skin. You know, mature skin could use that.
But she says removing the outer layer of a child's skin can lead to painful rashes and sunburns. And while she does prescribe retinoids for acne treatment.
This is a retinol product. Would you ever prescribe this to a 12-year-old?
No. We prescribe retinoids in the setting of acne. Retinol is over-the-counter and typically used in anti-aging products.
Over-the-counter retinoids for acne come in clearly labeled packaging with warnings that are more strictly regulated than cosmetic retinols.
Even like myself as a dermatologist, I might miss an ingredient just because there are different names for things.
And this is what can happen when you accidentally put adult anti-aging ingredients on young skin.
I thought my daughter was safe with the products that they were promoting for young people, but no.
In response to the Sephora kid backlash, popular popular brand Drunk Elephant posted this list on social media with products they say are safe for kids, and we found this list of products not intended for kids deep in their online FAQs. Take a look. Can you tell the difference? Our undercover shoppers couldn't.
Find everything okay? Yeah.
And no one at Sephora or competitor Ulta Beauty seemed concerned when these undercover tweens bought only products intended for older skin.
It was really weird, but they didn't stop us. Yeah. And the product that I bought was actually recommended for ages 20 plus.
Yeah. Don't you think, though, it's my job as your mom to not let you buy the stuff?
Well, true. But if you were here, of course we'd follow your instruction.
But not everyone has a mom who researches for a living.
Mama, can we get one thing?
No.
All right, how did we cool down 25 degrees today? No doubt you noticed that. Exhibit A, the marine layer came back in a big way today. That's what it looks like from Mount Tam in a time lapse. Here is the right now image. This is updating live satellite imagery. The marine layer is still lurking out there. Right now it's just on the San Mateo County coastline and we're relatively clear, but this thing's coming back tonight. It means business. We're getting back into June gloom. Show you how long we're going to stay this cool coming up. Well, let's pick this story up where we left off, because now that we know we've got just a little bit of the marine layer lurking out here off the coast, let's put that into the Futurecast imagery, and I want to show you how this thing is really going to take over as we go overnight. Let's get that high view, look down on the bay, because we're going to transition out from the high-resolution satellite to the high-resolution forecast imagery. Look at this stuff just kind of spill into the bay. What I've done is I've taken it from now until about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning right here. So this is your Monday morning. We start out with the gray skies. It'll fill most of the immediate bay. It's certainly going to have the whole coast covered. But look how it fills in the topography of the North Bay up here. It'll get up into Napa Valley. It'll spill through the Petaluma Gap tomorrow. That's what this filament is right here, getting over towards like Santa Rosa and maybe even as far north as Healdsburg with that tomorrow. It'll melt back by late morning. You get plenty of sunshine. In other words, it will be just like today. But because of the influence of that, because the marine layer is going to be able to filter in so far, the influence is left on the rest of the day, and you continue to feel that. Let's get those colors on there for the daytime highs tomorrow. And since it just wants to blink, I'll just put the numbers on there. Pick out your part of the bay. That's going to be your Monday. So remember, these temperatures were well in the hundreds inland yesterday. So tomorrow might be a degree or two warmer than today, actually, by a few degrees, because it was upper 70s out there for the Tri-Valley today. And maybe you go low to mid 80s. Same thing here in the Santa Clara Valley. And let's get those North Bay numbers in there, since you know you're going to wake up with plenty of low grade tomorrow morning as well. Melts back by late morning, early afternoon. You get a beautiful day. You'll be in the mid and upper 70s out there for daytime highs. So that's going to cover it. And basically what happens from that point on is we just keep repeating that day. The marine layer is back now, and it looks like it's just going to stick around for much of the rest of this 7-day forecast. So as we take a look at the 7-day forecast on here, there are the numbers for the bay. Keep in mind, each one of these mornings, it's afternoon sunshine, but each one of these mornings you're going to wake up with pretty widespread gray and June gloom. And when we look at the forecast on here for the inland microclimates, numbers are a little higher, but the theme is the same and the trend stays identical. You're going to be right around 80 degrees like every day for the remainder of this 7-day forecast. No more big swings coming our way. All right, guys, back to you.
Alrighty, Darren. If we found life in space, it would be the story of a lifetime. And now there is a hint. And we'll explore that when the news at 6 continues.
Are we alone in the universe? New research points to some evidence of possible extraterrestrial life, Brian?
Possible. Scientists at Cambridge claim they may have uncovered evidence of organic chemicals in the atmosphere of a very distant solar system. Other scientists say, not so fast.
7, 6.
Have a liftoff.
Voyager 1 launched in 1977.
Very smooth flight.
Passing Jupiter, then Saturn.
Pressures look very good.
And now it's the most distant human-made object, screaming along at 38,000 miles an hour. At that rate, it would take 2 million years to reach this, star K2-18, and a planet orbiting it that might have a biosignature. Or might not.
Biosignature is a sign of life.
This is Bertrand Menezes.
And we are here at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California,
where they're researching exobiology.
Exobiology is the search for biology outside of Earth.
Have we found anything yet?
No, not really. There's been some interesting, intriguing detections very recently that need to be further confirmed and further studied.
Interest in the subject spiked when Cambridge astronomers found what they called the strongest evidence yet that life may exist on a planet outside our solar system. Those astronomers used data from the orbiting James Webb Telescope to detect what they think are organic molecules in that desperately distant planet. This took some imagination.
It took enormous imagination to, out of the data from 124 light years away, to taste the atmosphere of this planet for a fraction of a minute.
Professor Scott Hildreth out of Chabot College had a ball explaining the experiment, a basketball for that distant sun, a tennis ball for the planet, specifically the fuzz on the tennis ball. Really?
We have the ability from Earth to see when the planet just comes between us and the star. That fuzz, the atmosphere of the planet, is between us and the star for a fraction of a time. And in that time, we can tell what the gases in the atmosphere are made of.
Those Cambridge scientists think they spotted organic molecules from 124 light years away. So does that mean it's something alive?
It hints at it, but it does not mean it.
That's because at the moment, Cambridge only has one leg to stand on, that of an incomplete experimental result.
The other leg of science, though, is skepticism. It's tested again, tested independently, tested with a different experiment.
So the jury's still out?
The jury's out, but what's fun about this is a great illustration of how science works.
Back at JPL, they're working on the Roman Space Telescope. A big leap forward in detecting life on another planet, something we haven't quite done yet.
But the hope is we are developing the technology to be able to do that in space with the Roman Space Telescope. So the technology is being developed, we're getting closer every day.
From Voyager to the Roman Space Telescope, looking for life light years away in the hopes that maybe someday something will look back. That hasn't happened yet, though.
That hasn't happened. But it's really, really interesting. And when you talk about biosignature, you're not saying that all of a sudden we're going to get visitors from another planet to come.
No, and this doesn't mean that there's people running around and we've detected them because of their signature in the atmosphere. It's just organic chemicals.
Right.
And even that is a stretch because there's a lot of scientists going, I don't think they found it.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one. It's a tough experiment, and so bravo for them for at least pulling it this far. We shall see. In the meantime, thanks for watching. 60 Minutes is next.
We'll see you back here at 11. Good night.